Hey guys, in this video I will be painting this Aragorn miniature from a company called Nomnom Figures. I've been a fan of Lord of the Rings for a long time, so when I saw this one I had to pick it up. I think it's a 75mm scale, about 14 centimeters up to the top of this pillar here, and it 3D prints in 3 parts: the Aragorn figure, the pillar here, and also the base. Great pose, great detail, really happy with the miniature. So I haven't heard of this company until recently, but I think they do mainly pop culture miniatures, so things like Pokemon and video games, so I'll definitely be getting some more of them. This is a great little display piece. I did some minor touch-ups just to make him be able to stand up better on the base with some putty. And for this technique to work, I heavily relied on an airbrush, so if you want to follow along, I suggest you use one of these as well. I started by painting black on the underside, so all of the shadows. And then after that I took leather brown and did a zenithal highlight. So that is painting from above and the side, just to highlight the miniature. He's mostly wearing brown clothing, so this is a good start. I didn't worry about painting the back of him brown yet, but I did all of his hair and his clothing and his pants, and leaving some of the black on the underside, of course, for the shadow. And then I lightened that by adding some dark sand for more highlights, so hitting the same area, the hair and the clothing, just to add some more highlights to him. I then took black and white, or you can just take a grey and paint the cloak. So again, it's a zenithal highlight, just spraying from above and keeping some of that black in the shadow. And then take orange, and that will be for the flame. So I plan on doing quite an ambient miniature here, or display piece. So some of that orange will be leaking onto his hair and his clothing, creating some nice ambient light. So I painted all of the flames, of course, but then as you can see here, I'm kind of where the reflection from that flame would hit, making a glow on the top of his head and on his arm. So that's all the airbrushing for now, and here I take a dark green and water it down quite a lot and paint his overcoat. I watered it down so some of the colour from the airbrushing would show through, some of the highlights and the shadows. I then took this combination to make quite a dark brown for his inside jacket, and again watered it down quite a lot so the highlights would show through, and this is how it looks after that. And then I took black and light grey to go over his cloak, the whole thing. Again, very watered down, so the highlights of the airbrushing show through, the light at the top and the dark at the bottom. I then took beige red and Lamian medium to do the skin tone. Again, it was quite watered down. That's kind of a common technique here, just to show the airbrushing. So I did his hands and his face. Next I took Agrax Earthshade and covered all of the skin with that wash, just to create some shadows. And on the hands here, and the fingers. And I also did the hair, just to create some definition there, and also on the brand that he's holding. I also did some highlights on his overcoat, just with the light green, and that really made a difference, I think. And also washed the arm guards here, just to create some shadow, and for the quiver and the bow on his back too. Next I painted his sword with some gunmetal silver. We'll do some more details soon, but just do his sword for now. And then we took flat earth and did his sheath, and also some of these details on his jacket. as well as highlighting his wristbands, the decorations on the outside, and highlighting the straps on his quiver. Next I took flat brown and did some straps, so painted the one on his chest and also the belt buckle, just to make it all uniform in one colour. And now we're doing some more silver details, so the smaller things here on his sheath, as well as some buckles, one on his chest here, on the belt, and there's also some small ones on his wrist guards. Next I took a dark grey, just by getting a grey and adding some black and really watering it down to paint his pants. Next I took white and a really fine brush to paint his eyes. And took a pale flesh just to add some highlights to his face, so painting any of the raised areas, like on the top of his nose, eyebrows, top of his cheek. Then I took beige brown and a very thin brush to do his whiskers or beard, so you could follow a reference image on where to paint these and the density and how dark it should look. Then took black and did a tiny dot on his eyes. And then I took Nomnom oil just to wash some areas, so you can darken the sheath by adding the Nomnom oil to that, and also the belt. Anywhere you want to darken an area or add some definition, this is a good time to do it. I then painted these straps here with a lighter brown and took a wash with lots of Lamian medium just to go over his face one more time to add some more definition, and then painted his boots in brown and took Agrax Earthshade to create a wash for those same boots. And that's the Aragorn figure mainly done, so now we move on to airbrushing the base. So I undercoated that all with black as well, just to create the shadows. And I did the same thing to the pillar, so I fully coat that with black. And then what I'm doing here is I had a grey and I'm just zenithal highlighting it with that. So I did these put together just so the colours would match. Whereas if you did it separately, maybe the tones of the grey might not match too well. One might be darker or lighter, so I just made sure to put that together before I started doing this. And then checked what it would look like with the Aragorn figure here. And this is where I decided to put in more ambient light, so I'm working out here where I need to spray the orange. So because the flame is so close to this pillar up here, I created quite a bright orange reflecting off there, but also made sure to do it on these two other rocks that he's standing on. I figured the glow would be covered by his body anywhere else, so just painting the tips of these rocks would make sense. And here I'm just adding some more orange bounce light onto the Aragorn figure, and also adding some yellow to the flame, just so there's some variation in brightness. And then again, just testing out to see how he looks with that new light. and he's looking pretty good. I decided to add some yellow to here just to make it even more bright. And then I put it in my display cabinet because this is where it will live. So I'm making sure that the lighting in my display cabinet does him justice. I decided the eyes looked quite derpy, so I went back in to adjust his pupils a little bit and got some Agrax Earthshade just to darken his under his eyes and his eyebrows, just to make it look a little bit more, I don't know, like there's a shadow cast from the torch. And one of the last things to do was paint these vines here. Not totally happy with how these went. Maybe I should have done it a darker green, but I can always do that later. So there's some on the base here and scaling up the pillar. And then I came back to him to do some more silver highlights. So because of that, the orange spray that I did from above earlier, I just wanted to bring back some of the silver highlights on the tips of his sheath and sword, just because that same light would reflect on the silver. And here I took a very watered down Nuln oil just to bring back some shadow underneath some of these rocks and vines. I felt like the contrast wasn't working well enough, so I just brought some back, some shadow. And then I've got some really bright yellow, watered down a little bit with some Lamian medium, and just added some highlights to the flame here. And then added some pigments just to make some more natural looking textures on the base, including around his feet where dust would have came up and around some of the parts of the pillars. So I just sprinkled some of the darker red color here and then also some dust color. And here I took a white and then added some reflected light in the pupils, so a really tiny little white dot inside the black dots just to add a reflection. And that was the last step. This was a really fun miniature to paint, and Aragorn's one of my favorite characters, so this is a really cool addition to my miniature collection. And it's one of the first larger miniatures I painted like this, so it was really fun to get the airbrush out and really be able to do some of that ambient lighting. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.